Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Pure Michigan Day. I'm Lynn Jarman Johnson, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer with Consumers Credit Union. We're located here in Michigan, serving all of Michigan, and also excited to serve you today. A wonderful panel presentation we have today, and we're really glad that you're here.
Hi, and I'm Dan McGraw, CEO of DPT Solutions. So happy to have you join us for actually webinar number 2 of a 3-part webinar series. So this is the new business and consumer experience. So as I think we all heard yesterday, the stay-at-home is being lifted, and timely webinar, right, for all of us to hopefully get back to work and get back to the business and consumer experience.
Some housekeeping tips for all of us today. We do have our lines muted for everyone except for the panelists. We will be having Ken Miller join us momentarily, and if the panelist link is a little bit glitchy for him, then he's going to join as an attendee. We will unmute his line when it's time for him to chat. So he has some great information for us, especially when we just found out we can go to restaurants again. Very excited about that. At the end of the webinar, we're going to have a Q&A via chat, so get ready, write those questions down, and we'll help you at the end. And yeah, we have a wonderful panel today, don't we, Dan?
We do, absolutely. Let's go ahead and introduce them. So we have Josh Baird, President Managing Partner at the Dome Sports Center. Thank you for attending, Josh, and volunteering to be a panelist. And we have Christy Buck, Executive Director of the Mental Health Foundation and founder of Be Nice.
Thanks so much. We also have Guillermo Cisneros. He is the Executive Director of the West Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Has a phenomenal contact with the groups that are really getting us back to work here in West Michigan. And then also Ken, as I told you, Ken Miller will be joining us. He is the CEO of the Millennium Group, which is a group that has multiple restaurants and catering, has been totally blindsided by COVID. But now it's time to really take a look at how we're going to get back to work. Today's focus is really on business and consumer experience, trying to figure out how we make sure that we're following guidelines, but then also making sure that we're serving those customers and members that we love so much in a way that they're used to being served. It's a strange kind of time for us, isn't it? Well, in the past 24 hours, we have seen that stay safe, stay home has been lifted a bit. There's little phases going on, which is so exciting, and it makes today so timely. So let's begin with Guillermo. Guillermo, tell us about, when you found out yesterday about the new opening doors, was there quite a bit of buzz in your office as well as throughout who you connect with?
Definitely, Lynn. It was great to finally hear, that the stay-home order was lifted. We had several businesses contacting us, and it's, you could see and feel the happiness, of many of them, and as you mentioned, even though the restrictions are not, fully lifted, it is, a breath of fresh air, for many businesses, in different industries to be able to start, offering their services again. So I have a series of, points, that I would like to touch, because it is important, that as we continue to hear, how this, it's going to continue to reopen, we are living right now in a world that is changing, in every minute, until we get to the new normal, it will be very important for small businesses to pay attention, as you said, to the local guidelines, new regulations and norms that the state and local government is putting together to adapt to the challenges that COVID-19 has brought us. As the economy reopens, we will see different ways that the businesses will have to adapt, in order to be successful. Innovation, it is very important during this period. We need to think, about how to utilize, our space in the best way possible, in a way that we can maximize our operations and allow the businesses to start getting some traction. being ready to modify the physical space, Lean will be key. As I mentioned, taking into consideration the new rules to operate should be at the top of our list. It is important also to think about our cash flow and the possible investment needed to do those modifications. For example, in the case of restaurants, it is important to think if reopening at a reduced capacity, right now it's at 50% capacity, would make sense, for them. Would they be making any profit compared to what they were making before, with the number of employees, that they will need to hire, to reopen. It is important also that people, the business owners, consider that people are nervous, to about having direct, contact with others. So what are the measures that the business owners are taking to make sure that the employees and customers are safe, during this reopening? How can we or business owners be creative, in using, what they currently have instead of spending what they don't have? So that's that's very important in these moments where the economy is tight. Many people have lost their savings. So how it is going to be important that the business owner really sits down, understand the situation, and make numbers, to see if this is something that will make sense. Definitely, we're at a point that everyone wants to open, everyone wants to get back to business. But I would encourage that the business owners to be smart and to utilize the resources that they currently have, instead of going to spend money in things that might not work or might not be necessary in a few days from now.
Yeah, that's great insight, Guillermo. Thanks so much. And I think that leads well into our next question. It looks like Ken Miller has joined. Ken, thanks. Sorry about those technical difficulties.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. You're here now, so that's what counts. So I think that's a great segue, talking about some of the things that Guillermo just mentioned. And I think, Ken, you probably caught the tail end of that. So from your perspective, Ken, what are some of the changes? Definitely your business being very impacted, that restaurant business. Tell us, what changes do we need to make in the lines of our business, and some ideas that maybe you have?
Well, and it is an excellent question. I did catch the tail end of Guillermo, so thank you. As far as, I'm taking this essentially from a restaurateur's perspective as opposed to manufacturing or office. Each have their own unique requirements. From restaurants' perspective, I don't see a lot of change in my product, but I do see significant change coming in my business model. And I think that's going to be defined for me, not so much by the state or the federal laws or my OSHA or anything else. It's going to be defined for me by the customers. When they come in, what are their expectations? We are going through extensive discussions now, and have been, as to what are we going to do, physical changes to our various units. What are we going to do to the interior spaces? Some of it's what's required, 6 feet apart, removing some tables, masks, PPEs. List is rather extensive, but the changes that we will make will probably be defined more after June 8th, when we start opening up our units and the customers come in, and we will get their expectations. I have talked to many of my own friends who aren't ready to go out yet. So I've got to learn, I'm going to get 50% seating. I don't know if I have 50% of my old market still, including many of my own friends that are in a delicate age, you might say, I guess. And when customers come in, a simple example are gloves. Gloves aren't required. but some customers are going to expect gloves. So how do we explain that to them? But there are other customers who are going to say, no, I don't want to see gloves on your employees. So the physical changing, as far as, you know, customers coming in, employees going out, vendors, all of that, we will certainly match the MIOSHA regulations, the new state regulations, whatever those finally come down to. We will put the necessary barriers up. We will do our social distancing. We'll put the graphics down. The list again is rather endless. But anyway, I guess the focus for me, and I'm not so sure for you know, Josh, Guillermo, or Crispy, is going to be on the new cultural differences that we're facing. I'm fearful that dining is going to go from entertainment to clinical. And that is sad, because dining has always been one of the forms of entertainment for a lot of people. And if it becomes institutionalized or clinicked, that's going to change the desire for all of us to go out. So.
You know, Ken, you hit the nail on the head with listening to the customer and listening to the member. And Guillermo, I heard you say the word innovation. And I think that one of the things that is happening is when you look at the suppliers that we work with, our partners, our vendors, who are coming to our offices, they're coming to our establishments. We're trying to order the types of supplies that are very important when it comes down to those guidelines, and they're just out. You know, what are the challenges that you're finding, Josh, in your line of work?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the easy ones probably to talk about is hand sanitizer. I think we've all kind of heard the demands that there are on hand sanitizer, and when you go to the stores, you find that, you know, it's harder and harder to get. And you know, I think that from that example, and you hear about how people are innovating, how we've kind of solved that is I actually have a friend that has a distillery that converted his distillery into a hand sanitizing factory. And so I think it's leveraging kind of the personal network, and you really start to see how you're connected to one another. And I think that's one of the things here too, and talk a little bit more about that in the next segment. But we're really connected a lot deeper than sometimes we realize. I sometimes forget as we think about suppliers, there's lots of different ways that we can serve one another. So I think it's being creative and looking throughout our collective communities for ways to solve these problems, because the solutions are there. Sometimes we don't maybe ask the right question. So in that case, you know, through a friend of a friend, we got connected and solved our hand sanitizing issue with 5 gallons of hand sanitizer, if you can believe it. So, you know, I think that the other one is, I think, helping one another understand how we can serve them and how they can serve us. And so, you know, just little things that, you know, as around our business, just starting up and getting ready for the spring season was a lot more difficult this year than it has been in the past, based on, you know, various restrictions and protocols. And so, for example, again, it sounds kind of silly, but getting our sprinkler system up and going this year was a little bit different than it has in the past. And so I think you really have to, I think, open dialogue. We've tried to do a lot more with our suppliers and our partners via phone conversations than email, because there's a lot more to work through than very much before it was transactional. Now there's some dialogue that has to happen in order to find creative solutions.
Josh, what will you do when your friend goes back to making beer again?
That's a great question. I have 10 gallons of hand sanitizer, and I'm hoping 10 gallons will carry us through. When he goes back to making beer, I'm going to have to find a different solution to that, Ken.
Love it. So that's a great segue into how do I manage my team in a positive way, right? So what does it look like? And Ken, I think you hit on it a little bit, and I'd love to hear from you, Christy, is, there's an expectation right now, from customers, and you have some customers that are going to demand, gloves, masks, all those types of things. You've kind of got other customers that seem to almost demand the opposite. As a consumer, I don't want to have to wear a mask. I don't want to have to wear gloves. Christy, what are some of your thoughts about how do you prepare your team as a business to interact with consumers going forward?
Yeah, so my job is the Mental Health Foundation of West Michigan. So a lot of everything that I teach is about how we treat each other, and that is with respect, dignity, civility, everything that goes into the golden rule, obviously, and that would be nice. So be nice is an action plan. So for me, I'd love to reflect back on 4 steps on what to create and how to manage your team, and that would be to ensure that you're noticing the good, the right, and that is the N in this action plan. I'm going to notice the good, the right, what was before, what happened in between, and now what's coming our way now. So the good, the right was maybe it's given us a new way to implement new things within our team. Maybe new customers are going to be coming now that have never been here before. I'm also going to look at the right, the good that was happening before, because the right, the good is still there. How we treat our customers, that's all still there. Maybe we're going to have to be forced to do things different. So I'm going to notice those differences, and I'm going to implement the good, the right, and accepting the difference. So the I in it is invite myself to make the changes. And much with leadership goes into include employees with maybe great ideas that they may have. I know that within our team, sometimes we've been managing work all online and Zoom meetings, and it's been really intense. But now all of a sudden, shining stars are coming with different ideas. So how can I invite and include more of our team to be part of these solutions? And when I'm part of a solution, that brings about passion and energy that maybe my boss, my supervisor, the leader of my team cares enough. And this is the C and be nice, is that challenge myself to put out a different way of leading right now and including all employees in these next steps. Yep, we got to adhere to a lot of policies. Things are going to have to change. We at the Mental Health Foundation had to make a COVID policy. What is going on? But on the other hand, do I have my team, everybody who comes to work every day with that passion, that love for our company to instill the next steps? And then ultimately the E in this action plan is empower. And that's the buzzword all the time. And empowerment is huge when you want to get people working for you. It's giving them power to be part of these solutions and part of these changes. The passion is still there. I'm looking right now, this is kind of what I compared it to, is our employees, some of them have been working at home right now, and some of them are coming back just like all of our customers are. So I need to know that sometimes when you leave for an extended vacation, the first couple weeks is you don't know what the heck you're doing, right? You're walking around going, okay, I want to be back on the beach. I want to be not here. So it's kind of like jet lag a little bit too. We got to allow ourselves a little bit of time to also adjust to these things. And so same with our customers. I think we're going to talk in a little bit in the next segment about our customers. And so the positivity that I give off as a leader to my team is the positivity that my team is going to give to my customers. So
that's great.
Hey, Josh, do you have anything to add to that? I know, the differences that Christy talked about how so much has been in front of a camera, and yet now we're saying, hey, let's get back to being face to face.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm kind of smiling because we've talked about this as our staff, and one of the things that we've challenged, one of the easiest words right now is no. So we've challenged ourselves and the whole team, find a way to serve people and find a way to say yes. It certainly may not be easy, and it may put more work on us, but there's an answer, there's a solution to it. And while we're doing that too, when we find a way to serve people and we find a way to say yes, it's going to open up more opportunities that we didn't know were there before. So I really like kind of the way Christy phrased that, and I think it is inspiring and it's empowering to people when you kind of give it that kind of direction.
And Josh, you said the perfect word, which is challenge. And there are future challenges that we are looking at that we really, we heard Guillermo say it already. We heard Ken say it already. We're going to have to kind of watch what happens in the economy, in our place of business, to really prepare for those future challenges. Guillermo, what are your thoughts on that?
So definitely, it's gonna be very important, that the businesses really understand their financials, Aline, and I'm talking, by experience, from many businesses within the Latinx, community. It is very important that everyone have, their financials, in good shape, handy. As a small business, sometimes you don't have the luxury of having a CPA, or someone that, can support you. So I'm talking from the, small business perspective, and one of the things that we struggled, within the Latinx business community, understanding those numbers, it's key, so you can prepare, for future challenges, knowing your cash flow. How much do you need, for the next 6 months, for the next 12 months, to survive? What is, that you need to do in order to continue, to have, those, good relationships, with your bankers. That was another piece that I wanted to share, that, having those, good relationship with bankers, with your suppliers, with your providers, that's key, so they can continue, a way that it's, good. Sometimes, one of the barriers we found is that many of the businesses, within our community didn't have those good relationships, with their bankers. So so in this crisis, the first ones that got, the fund reliefs were the ones that, were helped immediately, by their, financial institutions. So definitely, understanding your financials and continue to build those relationships with the others that are supporting your business. It's key to prepare, for future challenges.
Guillermo, that's great. Thanks so much for that.
Your credit unions too, right, Guillermo?
Definitely. Yes.
If I may, can I add on to what Guillermo just said?
Absolutely.
And I agree with him. And this is going to sound like a commercial for CCU. So going forward for us, we are going to have to be very fleet of foot, because our historical basis, I've been in this business 33 years. I've got 50-some managers and 500 employees, and the preparation and service of food hasn't changed a lot over the last time. It is about to. So I've got 500 employees coming back to work. They're going to have been trained one way 90 days ago, and now it's going to be a whole new protocol. All my financial models that I have relied upon, knowing from day to day to how much to staff and what unit and what my revenue is going to be, those 33 years are gone. I can't rely back on that. So I need to remain fleet of foot. But I can tell you, I need financial support from suppliers, from financial institutions, equally so, because I just don't know. Now, I'm only going to be able to use that excuse, frankly, for 6 months to a year, and then I'm going to know. But in the interim, I think Guillermo's point is excellent.
Ken, thanks so much for adding on to that. Absolutely. And I think this is a great segue into really the next piece. So we've talked about our employees, our business, our suppliers, vendors. Now, what does it look like in terms of staying in contact with your customers, staying connected with your customers? So again, the stay at home is now being lifted, and it looks like, we'll be kind of back into the swing of things next week, not fully, but how do we communicate as businesses to our customers? How do we ensure that they know we're open? Josh, any insight into that?
Yeah, there's a couple things that we've done. So probably not surprisingly, there's our email list is an important way that we do that, and we've tried to ensure that we're reaching out to our email list on a weekly basis and providing them something more than just an update too. Like we want to help first. So we've provided resources that are beyond kind of the scope of our business, if you will, but things that we think that our customer base would be interested in, would be valuable and helpful. And we found that to be really productive. The other thing that we have started doing is I think now is a great time to revisit it. Well, if you don't have it, to do a SWOT analysis. And if you do have it, revisit that SWOT analysis. And we've invited our customers, some of our customers, into that process with us. That has been amazing, actually. So, you talk about from an empowering standpoint, they get to be part of the problem solving activity. They get to be part of the solution. They feel important. They feel special. It's amazing insight for us. I mean, all too often, I think I'm very guilty of this. I tend to, at times, you kind of double down internally, and I think now's the time to double down externally. And we've talked about this with now's the time to focus on our customers. And we have found that, with Zoom or, anything else now, it's easy to connect people in that way. So it's probably been one of the best things that we've done. And we've had I've heard innovation used a few times. We've had some great innovations. For an example, like we do a lot of training of athletes. So we built these outdoor volleyball courts, and we're doing small group 3-on-3, 4-on-4 grass leagues, something that would have never been possible before, but that came out of a SWOT analysis with our coaches and some of our customers. So I'd encourage you to kind of look at something like that.
That's great.
That is awesome. When you're looking at that, Josh, the word policy we heard in the previous segment, all of these new guidelines, the rules that have to be put on the front door before someone can walk in, they're very daunting in some respects. And as Dan mentioned earlier, some customers are going to say, I really just want to go back to normal. So Guillermo, how do we create the communication about the policies that are mandated, but then also continue to serve the way that we really love to serve our customers and our members?
Yes, but what we are, seeing, Lynn, is that there are businesses that are starting with social media campaigns right now on Facebook, Instagram. They have started to prepare their plans, to put their policies, together, and some of them, have started to communicate these, to their clients, through social media. This is one of the most popular, ways, to share communication, right now. So that's one of the ways that we're seeing. Another, tool is the website. The website, of every organization, it's key, to communicate to their clients, all of the changes in policy, new procedures, because that's an easy way to, just to have everything handy and share the link, through again social media or other ways. Electronic newsletters, that as Josh mentioned, if you have a list of your clientele, your customers, through email blasts, that we call, it is easy to share, those policies. Also, there is a visible signage that the state of Michigan will be providing, to every business. And this is for things that are, mandated and common. So some of the businesses that I have connected, recently, breweries, and restaurants, they will be sharing, those new policies, with those visible signage. So that's one way, another way to do it. And then another way to communicate to customers is, it's very important to have your preparedness plan ready, for when you go back, and at least, have, your high level points of your preparedness plan. A preparedness plan can have, many pages, but if you have your high level points, handy, in 1 or 2 pages, so in case of a customer, asks for it, I mean, you can just give it to them. It's very important to be prepared, to have things, in place, for when we start, reopening again, and in June 8th, I believe, 6 days from now.
Guillermo, that's very great insight, and again, a good segue into a question for maybe Christy can handle. So, you formulate your policies and you put those things in place for your employees, for your customers, and obviously none of us know, right? None of us know what this is going to look like. We haven't experienced this before. So what happens when you start to get pushback on those policies? Certainly we want to get a plan down in writing as a business, but because we don't know, we haven't experienced this before, what happens when we start to see maybe pushback to those policies? How do we appropriately react?
So a lot of times pushback comes from fear. And so I hate to get all psychological, but it really is. And a lot of times people are really afraid of what I'm going to come into. And so my advice, again, would be to be proactive. And so I'm going to back up what Grandma said, and that is make sure you communicate what's going on. And that communication should start right now. Like, this is what our customers should expect when they come in. Whether it be positivity, everybody's going to be greeting you the same way we always did, with smiles. We're excited. We want to get back to work. Or also the expectation of new policies. And a lot of times it's how you display it, how you put the sign on the door. Are you being creative in your business about adhering to policies? Again, go back to encouraging your employees to be part of this creativity. So when I enter in a business, the X is on the floor. Are they something that I can really look at where I should be social distancing? I was reading about some restaurants putting mannequins in places where you can't have seating. I don't know. You got to be creative to, again, create a positive environment. And so this is what I love about the action plan, Be Nice, NICE, and that is go back to noticing the good, the right about your business. And you are going to push that out to your customers. The good, the right is we're open, we're back at work. Come back, you're our loyal customers. Reward those loyal customers possibly first also. When you get here, you are going to be treated just the way you always were treated. So push it out there, the good, the right. But you know what? With the good, the right, you got to notice that we had to make differences, right? We're all put in this position. So how we show that positively, not down to the dumps, now we have to wear masks. No, we're going to wear masks. We're going to be doing this for right now. So it's how you push it out. Again, invite yourself to reach out to your clients, to your customers through social media, knowing what they should expect. And most of all, making your business an inviting business where I want to be. I want to be back there. People are nice when I walk in the door. People greet me when I go in the door. I've been shopping and I've been watching. I've been going to my local grocer. I've been going to, I'll just say it, 4Ox. And I don't feel anything but positivity when I'm walking in the door. And it is a face mask requirement. And I have my face mask with me ready to go. But the person at the door is also greeting me. There's someone there kind of guiding me on where to go and where to be in a line and what to do. A lot of times you enter in, it can be intimidating, like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I mean, I wonder what their rules are. Put the policies on the door, but in a friendly way. And challenge yourself. It is going to be challenging. And there's a lot of your staff. They inherently might not have that in their personality. I am a go-to, get to work, get the job done, get the salt and pepper, do this. I can't do this. But you know what? Find the people who are within your organization who can challenge those folks to think in different ways. And ultimately empowering them, empowering your clients, empowering your customers with the knowledge that this is a kind, a civil, a place that you want to come back to all the time. I'm excited, really excited for restaurants to open up. I've missed it so much that for me to come back and be greeted at a door with kindness, respect, and a welcome back is going to make a huge difference in just having people adhere to the policies.
Well, that sounds exactly, oh, go ahead, Ken. I was just going to say, I was leading right into you because that sounds exactly like good stewardship, which is servant leadership. So much more needed today than ever with our customers, our vendors, our suppliers. Ken?
Oh, I was just going to ask Christy if she'd come and speak to my staff when we start opening up again, because I love your approach. I love the be nice. And the one word that we are starting to use more than anything else with our customers is transparency, because changes are coming for certain, both in the business model, in pricing, and their expectations and our expectations. It's easy to just go back to a sticker on the floor that my OSHA or the executive order tells you to put down, but there's a way to do that and communicate it nicely, for one. I don't want my customers to learn everything on their own. So Christy's comment about when we meet you at the door, try to explain what the new process is going to be so that they don't walk in and wonder where to sit, how to sit, what the expectations are. There are going to be price increases, guaranteed, significant price increases to some extent, both coming down from our suppliers, meat and produce, but the extra cost of the PPE, you know, for employees and so forth. We can do some of this through the web. We can do some of it through social media. We'll do some of it through in-store as the customers come in. They learn, they get educated as we do. So, but the obligation is on us. And the obligation is to not just to inform, but to protect. And so there's a balance there that and it's not an either or. We have to protect, still make a profit. We have to inform. So that the critical point for me is the use of social media and the absolute transparency that we need to put out to our customers.
That's great, Ken. Josh, do you have any insight into that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with everything that was said here. I think one of the things more than ever now is I think people have to feel welcome and invited in. And part of, you know, if you think about welcoming, inviting somebody in, I think part of that is helping understand what they need. Like it's anticipating their needs and then being ready to serve those. And I think about my own personal experience when you walk into something new. I heard Ken talk about it. You kind of like to know what the rules of the game are, or the expectations as you come in, because I think most people want to meet those expectations. But if it's unclear and they're not sure how to meet those expectations or what's expected of them, then I think you lose a little bit of that confidence. You lose that warm invitation into your business, and then I think you're starting behind the eight ball. So I think you have to be proactive in that respect. And I do think there's more than any time right now. Again, I think people have been isolated. We've started to work through this kind of new norm of, you know, we see faces on a screen, but getting back to kind of face-to-face interaction and feeling the warmth of another human being that is excited to see you and have you be part of, you know, your business and what you're trying to do. I think there's great opportunity there right now. And there's, you know, I think the result of that, regardless of some of the things that, you know, that we've talked about that will result in, if you can pull that off, I think is tremendous loyalty on the backside.
Yeah, and Josh, actually, that's a great segue. So, you know, one of the themes I've heard during this segment here in relationship to our consumers is a term that's been out there for a long time, right? Consumer or customer experience, right? And I think customer experience is going to be a key going forward. I mean, we have social media platforms where opinions are going to be posted. We know that, right? So how do we how do we brand our communications? How do we stay in front of those communications? So we've talked about, things like simple email blasts to inform people, but how do we also stay on top of our social media communications and monitor those things and hopefully appropriately react? Christy, I'd love to get some feedback from you and just some of your thoughts.
Oh my gosh. I mean, social media can be such an enemy, but when it comes to business, it can be your biggest friend. And so it is constant communication, taking off on, again, be nice, noticing the good, the right. Wow, it's given us the opportunity to reconnect with families. Now come back and connect with us. So everything that you're pushing out is full of positivity, recognizing where they've been and recognizing where you want them to be, and that is in your door. So how are you going to do that? You're going to be sending out, like Ken was saying, possible increases. The unfortunate part of all of this is that prices may increase, but we are going to work our hardest to keep them at a fair and manageable price because we want you all to come back. So using social media as your biggest friend right now is absolutely huge. Doing some Facebook Lives, maybe even engaging, empowering staff members. Say, hey, would you be on a tape, and invite some of our clients back. Utilize that platform. I mean, it's an absolute riot, and I think people constantly are on social media right now, so they click through, they see someone talking. Usually Lynn, I watch Lynn a lot. It's just like automatically you hear her voice and all of a sudden you're there. And it could be that first line that's going to get me back into the door of my favorite restaurant, or my favorite establishment, whatever. Again, you got to definitely use social media as your platform to tell your customers what to expect. These are going to be the changes. So take photographs of what they're going to expect. Take a photograph of the sign that's going to be at the door. Maybe take a photograph of the person that's going to be the greeter at the door. But take this opportunity to communicate, because everybody is on social media. Everybody is on social media right now. Again, obviously, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think your point is really focusing in on, let yourself tell the story, and don't be afraid of negative comments, because your customers will come to your defense. Your loyal customers are there waiting to help you. We have a guideline of very specific that is, we don't allow vulgar comments. We don't allow people to say negative things about our employees or our members. Those guidelines you can set in stone now, so that you are very open and honest with anyone who is posting. If that becomes a little bit negative, okay, people will come to your rescue. But all of a sudden, if it crosses the line, you know very clearly, hey, it's time to talk to that individual personally and shut that down.
You've got it, exactly. And even reach out. Can we connect with you? Right now communication is very different, and people do hide behind their computers to make negative comments. They'll make them with anonymous email addresses, but a lot of times it takes somebody to say, we're recognizing this, and we're doing the best we can. And sometimes I just think that when you comment to someone, we're doing the best we can. I mean, I constantly have to say that to myself. I'm doing the best I can right now. And you know what? If I can do better, I can do better, but I'm doing the best I can. And, I wear this logo all over all the time. There's a lot of pressure when you're wearing a logo that says be nice, to be nice all the time. And I have to get back, and I got to give myself a little break every now and then. I think as our businesses are opening up, you need to give yourself a little break too. And the break is, we're doing the best we can. And push the message out to your customers. And you need them back. We need you back. We're going to do the best we can.
Christy, that is great. And I'd like to hear from some other panelists, but I'd also like to let all of our attendees know we're open for questions. So there should be a little questions section in the GoToMeeting panel or GoToWebinar panel. Feel free to type any questions in there, and we've got a little bit of time left, and we'll try to get those answered for you.
Hey, Josh, I saw you shake. Yeah, I just said I saw you shaking your head, Josh. Go ahead.
I just wanted to piggyback. We've done quite a bit of Facebook Live workouts and things, and we've worked to make them interactive. Like throw something in the comment, like, you know, we make it fun and interactive, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback out of that, like two-way communication. And the other thing is I actually like the negative comments, because I look at those a lot of times as an opportunity. You know, we won't do it on social media, but have an opportunity to connect with that person. And usually if I can put aside, you know, like sometimes it feels like a kick in the stomach, but if you can put that behind you and then try to get to what's the issue and, you know, harvest some of the gold nuggets out of it, they're some of the best. And it's one of the greatest opportunities, I think, too, to help sort through some of the things. You know, sometimes I feel like the negatives are some of the best pieces of information because some people are just saying what everybody else is thinking. It just was a small group that said that. So if you can find a way to kind of take the personal side out of it and connect with that person one-on-one, what you can end up learning. And so, you know, we've had a couple examples there, some of our most loyal customers now too. So that might kind of 2 cents worth of thinking.
If I may add a little bit to both what Josh said and to what Christy said. And Christy, when, you know, it's easy for us to simply fall back sometimes and say, I'm doing the best I can, but we have to admit that sometimes we don't. This is not the best. Is going to Josh's comment about negative comments. We just have to be honest and say, you know what, we dropped the ball. And it's that transparency again. I like your theme of positivity. You know, we're talking about brand communications across media, positivity, transparency, consistency, but frankly, honesty. When you haven't provided the product you've promised, then you just have to be honest about it. And I would rather have somebody tell me that we didn't, as opposed to just walking away and saying, you know what, just won't be back. And when you do answer them, as Josh said, more often than not, you'll find out that they become your friend. That they're almost shocked that you cared. So.
That's great. Thanks for that, Ken. And we're not getting any questions. So apparently you guys are a great panel. You've answered everything. Still got a few minutes. So if anybody wants to jump in and ask a question, we'd love to have it.
Guillermo, I have a question for you. I know that you're on a task force for Get Back to Work. When you found out yesterday that really the plan is moving faster than what we had expected, you know, does that change many plans that you, in businesses that you've been talking to?
You know, definitely, you know, Lynn, we're going to have our meeting, you know, with those other economic development partners soon, you know, in the next few days, very few days. But yeah, several businesses were thinking that the economy was going to reopen again, you know, after June 12, you know, some of them were thinking that there was going to be an extension. But now that, you know, things are, you know, opening earlier, you know, everyone is, you know, it's in a different mode. So plans, you know, are changing. We are moving faster than, you know, than what we were moving before. Fortunately, the Kent County and the city of Grand Rapids, you know, have already started to develop plans, you know, for PPE, you know, and other tools, you know, to provide the businesses. So we're going to be more aggressive, you know, now, you know, that things are reopening, you know, sooner than later. But yeah, I feel that, you know, the plans are going to be changing and moving faster.
Great. Yeah. Thanks so much. We appreciate all of our panelists today. We appreciate all the attendees that have joined us. Want to let you know, so again, this was part 2 webinar of a 3-part series. So we've published our first webinar, which was the new employee experience. We will publish this one as well, along with the notes and any contact information for our panelists and any appropriate links. And then next week on Tuesday, we have our 3rd part, which is the new technology experience. And basically what the intent here is to talk about the employees, talk about the business and consumer experience, and then with our last webinar, talk about how technology can help aid our businesses in achieving that business, consumer, and employee experience. So again, thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to all of our attendees. if you guys have questions, feel free to reach out after the webinar.
And also a reminder that we really just have the best talent in Michigan and in West Michigan right here. Thank you so much, Guillermo and Ken. Wonderful talents. We will be linking you to their contact information if you'd like to connect. That'd be great. But most of all, everybody stay safe. And you know what? Be nice as we head into those stores and head into those restaurants and get physically fit. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great
Thank you all.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
Thank you.
everyone.